also think that you need to then say, okay, you bring up your other point about the financials, and how's that going to affect the marketing, how's the marketing going to affect your financials? And then I think you need to turn to somebody for maybe some guidance and such. And Dave spoke earlier about the laundry list of execs that we have and the variety of experiences and such. When we get to networking, you need to talk with Andrew.
We're going to get into some of these resources before we're done here, so that'll be maybe helpful to you as well.
Thank you.
We have a question, Lauren, you were first.
Yeah, any insights on, so I'm a one-man shop, I provide the service, I try to sell in playing tube, you're always selling, you're always marketing, and there's only one of me and there's a very finite pile of cash here, and I want to go out and sell, but how do I measure, how do I get that feedback, how do you take the long-term vision, because I know I have to make an investment, I've got a lot of people in my face say, hey, the world changed every day. If you aren't on Facebook, you're done. If you aren't on LinkedIn, you're done. You better get back to direct mail because all that stuff doesn't work, et cetera, et cetera. So I need a way to help me gauge and very tempting at the end of every day to take stock and then despair that you are a millionaire by the end of the day. So how do you get through the day and take the long range view, the short range view, get that done and sell and network, and I appreciate networking, but can't be everywhere all the time.
Bill, you want to try that one?
Will we ask what kind of business you're in? Service or product?
Drug-free workplace, managed drug-free workplace programs, drug testing, and now other types of occupational testing.
Yeah, I'm not sure I would be the one to go on that.
I think there's a lot of room for you to take a look at. First off, you're an entrepreneur. Secondly, you're the only entrepreneur. You're a one-person operation. Okay? I built my companies being a one-person operation. The most important thing right now is what Bill brought up earlier: sales. What can you do to sell your products? What can you do to sell your services? How many more services can you effectively add to treat your entire client base equally, and yet provide you with a living, provide you with time to get away, provide you with your family, and so on and so on. You have to take the sales and such on the short-term track initially, right? You get done with that short-term and however you define it, if that's 6 months, if that's a year, if that's a year and a half, 2 years, and then start looking down the road saying, all right, this is what I did for 6 months, this is what I did for a year, what can I do in year 2 that I'm not doing now? What can I do in year 3 that I'm not doing now? Don't focus necessarily right now, today, on the long term. Focus on the short term, focus on what brings cash into you and to increase your cash flow.
Let me turn that question a little bit, maybe to Elise for a second, because I have this question for you, and it might relate, and it may not be sales, but if I remember your story right, you and your husband started this in March. When did you add your first person, and what kind of thought process did you go through to add that person, whether it be in sales or in service?
Well, I think what we did is we really took a hard look at the opportunity cost and decided, what market segments that we wanted to go after and whether or not we had the resources just between the two of us to go after those markets. And so what we did is said, okay, this is a market that we want to focus on. We don't know a lot about it. We decided just to hire somebody. We continued to do what we did best, but we knew that if we wanted to grow and get to the next level, we had to hire an individual and start adding, increasing salespeople that way. We go, so outsource with independent contractors is another way.
And with the exception of Dave, who you did mostly outsourcing, but the two of you had to take a step someplace where you said you had to go and commit to somebody to come and do your work for you, somebody to work for you. That's how uncomfortable is that step when you hire your person?
Person asking the question may want to come to our next panel group, which I think will be growing the business, which will include an answer to the question I think that you have.
Tom, any thoughts on
well, I think it is, when I'm thinking about it, we're talking about sales, and I think that's going to be a big part of it. Probably finding that value of that service that's being sold, and perhaps focusing on, I'm going to say, on the larger opportunities. So rather than the smaller companies that are out there, because like to spend the same amount of time servicing a small organization as you would a larger one. But I think really showing that value, and that might be, again, part of that marketing piece that needs to be brought into, here's why you should invest X amount of dollars in drug-free workforce. Here's what your return will be, and getting that out, I think, again, from marketing standpoint.
Go out here for another question.
Yeah, I think, actually, when you say short-term, long-term, and so on, to me, immediately, the idea of strategy comes in. Like what is your plan? And I think that's a topic we've talked about. I'm a member of the exec group, and I think actually it's, strategic planning and so on is, it's essential, really, if you're going to be successful over a period of time. And but it's a little bit complex, but it will help to put some of the big pieces. And I think what you're saying, though, the 1-minute version is you've got to have sales, you've got to have your market. What is your market? And then you kind of work back, and then you go back. It's an iterative process, but I think it's a strategic planning to some extent.
Other questions?
There was somebody over here that.
Yeah, okay. You get your.
My question was, you said you outsourced the CFO, which is kind of an interesting concept. Because, I know there's CPAs, et cetera. What did you mean by that?
Well, because we weren't in the place where we could hire a full-time CFO and put them on the payroll, nor was it necessary, we decided to take somebody that was more like an independent consultant, and put him in a CFO role. And so we only, subcontract him for 10, 15 hours. He does very specific duties from the financial analysis side, and he knows what he needs to do. He has methodologies and processes, and it just made more sense for us to use somebody at that capacity.
So you can do that, and what she meant was, there's a long way from someone who does things on their own, who sees a CPA once a year, maybe to do taxes, to actually see somebody every month, make projections, and maybe has that kind of, actually, that familiar with the industry that they're in.
And at least I would assume your ability to do that may have had something to do with, you all mentioned, look at your strengths, and one of your strengths is knowing your business already, so you maybe didn't need the full-time CFO.
Yeah, exactly. And the accounting firm and the CFO work very closely together as well as a team. And it's a collaboration.
There are 2 or 3 major businesses in Minnesota that I'm very familiar with that are family-owned. But because of the family, that really started it is now out of it, there's younger people in it, they had to outsource a CEO. None of them. They own the business. It's their business, but they had to hire finally, ultimately, face the fact. They had to bring in some professional, educated people that were trained to be CEOs. Now, if that's outsourcing, it's just finding the right people. And I think you made some reference to it earlier that you may not be the greatest in computer, but you knew well enough to bring in those kind of people. And some companies just get to the point where they're huge. The companies, I won't name the companies, but they're huge companies in Minnesota, but they're privately owned. But they've hired outside professional people to come in to fill the top spots in their management group.
Which is,
They've had to.
But that's different than outsourcing.
Yes, it is.
Top management.
Yes, it is, but it's still the
Other
same concept.
other question, I want to make sure we get to them, yes.
One of you, and I can't remember who, talked about patenting, and I'm in a patent pending status, and I've been there for 2 years. My question is, how long do you wait to get your patent before you really move forward to have it produced and?
Yeah. Where are you in your process right now? In the patent process?
I'm at patent pending. I've been patent pending since April of 2009.
Okay.
Or, excuse me, 2010.
Yeah, each particular product or service that you want to be involved with, it's going to differ. It's going to differ. In 2009, has the product sold well between 2009 and 2011 and 2012?
I've been waiting for my patent because so that was my question.
Oh,
Is it
okay.
something that you move forward just on a patent pending basis, or?
Yeah, you have to what I would do is, I would contact the US Patent Office to begin with, all right? Which you probably already did, all right?
I have attorneys doing that.
Yeah, okay, all right. And then I would just suggest moving forward with it. If
Okay.
you have the resources and if you have the backing to go ahead and do it, sure.
Okay.
You know, you gotta realize that patents will only run for X number of years. So you have to take part and you have to take advantage of what's selling for you now.
Okay, so don't wait until you get the patent and move forward now.
You can move forward, all right, but it's best to get it.
Oh, yeah, that's what I've been waiting
That's-
for.
That's what it is.
Okay.
Will you work with the patent attorney?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
am working with a patent attorney down in
Yeah.
the cities.
Yeah,
They're good advisors.
they really are, and you know, it's like accounting, you know, it's like accounting, it's like lawyer, it's like legals, it's like patent attorneys, you know. Don't play one, you'll just get yourself in trouble.
Tom, you had,
No, I did.
comment, I'm kind of.
Well, I just wanted to, we've patented about a dozen different products, and each of those we've moved forward through that process. I don't know what the, you know, the product is that you're trying to patent, but as well, I would agree, I would move forward with that because the timing is of the essence. I
Okay.
would also wonder, you know, we usually have, we're 6 to 8 weeks and we have a patent pending in hand already. And we've got our number, we've got a patent in a much shorter time, so I'm glad you asked, are you working with a patent attorney?
I've had my patent pending numbers since April 19th of 2010.
Yeah, I'm guilty.
But I've been just waiting for the patent to be approved. And that's why I haven't done anything, and that was my question. Because my attorney said, what are you waiting for? You know, move forward, so.
Are there any other folks that have patent questions? The reason I ask is, we may have, again, it might be an opportunity as we network to ask further questions along that line, because that's critical to do. Absolutely. You had a question?
Oh, yes, I'm a very small company, just 2 employees, and I need to add, I mean, I've had employees in the past, right now I have an excellent employee, and I want to build that base of good employees, but how do you do that when you're so busy just running your business? How do you find those right people?
You're not alone. You may not like this comment, but my brief experience the last few years in the Brainerd Lakes area is that there's a lot of businesses here, just like you. They have the vision of growing, but they're so involved with it themselves, or maybe with a family member or one other person, they just can't bring themselves to figure out how they're going to add another person. That's really what they need to do. And I'm thinking of a young man that I'm working with, who I'd like to help in some way, and his main obstacle is he's great himself. He knows how to do what he's doing really well, and he'll do it from 5 in the morning till 9 at night. But try to get him to see that there's some advantage in maybe having another person in this building in this business as a start, and maybe a second person down the line is really a tough hurdle for him.
Lisa, any thoughts on, from your perspective, on hiring that
To
person?
add someone.
Well, I started a staffing company for that reason, is because I was having a difficult time finding the resources I needed for technology and augmenting my technology capabilities. But I would say if you can find a good, you know, search firm that you can build a relationship with, and I don't know how many there are in this area.
Do any of you, or have you used temp services? Just bring somebody in, try them out? That's one way to try them out without the risk.
We use them, you know, frequently when needed. It is a great opportunity. Let, you know, if you really sit down with them, explain what you're looking for. The other thing is networking, to get the word out. But you know, as long as you know for sure what you're looking for in an individual, and you try to spread that too.
Do you have a job position description of what you need that extra person for? And maybe you do in the back of your mind, but, you know, take some time, put it down on paper, and be very realistic about what you want that person to do.
And I think the likelihood of, if you did go to a temp service, the likelihood of finding the right person is much better if you have that description.
You bet.
They can focus on it.
I think she's looking for permanent, not temporary.
Well, but
There is
the
what you have to
the
hire.
reason I mentioned a temp
You
service
could get a
is.
permanent employee through a temp.
Exactly.
So,
I was just going to say, I get an email, at least one email every month from all the people out there that I know, any place, who say, I have a friend who's looking for a job, or I have a friend who is looking for a person to fill a job. And we just blasted all over, and it's amazing how many people find jobs that
How
way.
many parents have kids that need a job?
Yeah.
Other questions? Couple I was curious about, Elise, I'm gonna ask you this one. You know, your employment history was kind of rocky, and, you know, when you were working for someone else, because you kept getting disappointments. How does that impact how you treat manage your folks now? Does it make a difference?
Yeah, there's a big impact. It's that mutual respect and making sure that, management is listening to the team and we're empowering them and there's respect all around and we're building a team. And some of the organizations that I worked with prior to that, that wasn't happening. There was no team building, there was no respect. So that's what we really strive for in our organization. is how we
Mutual respect.
Yep, exactly.
And Bill, I have a different type of question for you. To get a sense, you know, for people who are just gonna start a business or have a small one, have 1 or 2 people and they wanna build it, you know, you grew a fairly large company out of that, but when you first started, what was the size of your company? When you and the guy you're on the other end of the phone with and your other partners, was it just you partners?
So the first year, I think we never totaled with our factory people and our office people, never exceeded 20 people in the first year.
In the first year, and in the end, when you sold it, it was
600 people, 5 locations across the Midwest.
so. So what I'm getting to is these things are kind of incremental. I mean, they don't always. There's certain people in the room here that can attest to this. They don't always just jump out there. But and this one's for all of you. Are there any particular, I don't know if I call them breaking points or real discomfort levels that you just didn't want to cross as far as size? Are there some of those?
Mine was 10 employees.
10 was.
I never wanted to be bigger.
Never want to be bigger.
That was my first
Now
one.
you're 3 times it. How big do you want to be now?
No more than 50.
See, I think the point is some of the comfort level, you know, it's down to it.
Well, there's a point you get where Tom is, where, you know, they don't have to know he's in the office, because you do get to a point where you gotta work through other people, there's just no other way. When you run a business, and once you get to 100 or so employees, somewhere along that line, we became more professional managers in our business, and when we got to 250 and we had 3 plants, 104 plants, we had to be more aware of getting the job done through other people and hiring people at those locations that could be there on a day-by-day, hour-by-hour basis to deal with the business more directly than we could.
I appreciated your definition that you were developing the staff, as far as what you do. People used to ask me when I was at Anderson Brothers, the president of the company, and they said, what do you do? I had a hard time with that. And finally, a guy came up with one that I really liked. He says, I greet visitors at the door so the people doing the work don't get interrupted. That became my new definition.
No, I heard that years ago when I met the president of Smuckers. He said the same thing.
Yeah.
He said that he was always at the door when somebody came to their offices, and that's what he did. That's what he described.
I really wasn't. Well, actually, I watched him come in the door, so I knew I really wanted to. That's what he does. No, it was a complaint I had. You know that. We just hit. And then, are there any questions out here yet? I'm still looking for your questions. Yes.
I'll stop whenever. How do you measure the, so as your companies are being run by this management team, how do you measure how do you hold them accountable? How do you measure their results? How do you hold them accountable? Like, what specific strategy do you meet with them? Maybe that's another big question, but like I'm just into specifics, you know, how do you conduct your ongoing communication with your employees in regards to their performance and holding them accountable to the goals? How do you measure that?
I'll just give you a real quick high level, we can chat later, but we're planning on strategic planning. So we go through strategic planning process, very high level. We have 5 strategic goals within that. Everything funnels from there, so all managers are to support those areas. And so what we've established what we call PMP, Performance Management Project, for each manager. We meet quarterly, everything is by the number. Here are the goals, and here are the metrics. So we chart, some things weekly, but for sure monthly. And when I say chart, all our metrics are charted. everyone in the company is in tune to that, whether it's our sales, our gross sales, our efficiencies, our productivity, those kind of things. So we have the metrics, and the managers are responsible, they've got their goals, and then we look at, did you or did you not hit them? My expectation again is that if you need help, see me, otherwise we'll review again in the quarter and hopefully achieving those goals, empowering them to hit it. But it's driven by very specific goals for and cater to each manager or each, and that funnels with everyone that's involved in the organization. All of their goals and their criteria is based to funnel support the five goals achieving.
You all collaborate then at the end of the year to define your goals or refine them for the next year?
No.
You would come up with all of them?
I call what I call the undisputable goals for the company for the next year. Here's what we're going to try to achieve. Obviously, you got to work on the buying with the whole team to get there, and they need to be realistic, stretch but realistic to get there. And then they embrace that and work with their teams.
Benevolent dictatorship.
It depends on your management style a lot, and we could spend 2 hours on this topic alone. This is not an easy question to answer in 5 seconds. Yeah, I was going to say, I could spend 2 hours.
What we're going to do is we're going to stop the questions, formally, but these folks are here, and then Sheila's going to introduce some other folks that are here that may have a particular area of expertise that you wanted to visit with them. We're going to do a little networking. We've got some food and some refreshments, and so I just want to thank you all for coming, and I think now is the time when you'll probably get your very, very specific questions answered if you just hook up with the right folks. There's a lot of people here that may know.
Thank you, Dave. There are several executives here over and above the two that are at the table. So I want to ask each of the executives to stand up and just really briefly introduce yourself and maybe your industry sector or your company so we can get around and make sure that the attendees today know who you are. So could the executives stand up, John?
Hi, my name's John Engelman. I'm a retired CFO from a manufacturing company that made components that go into computer disk drives here in Minnesota.
Thank you. Chuck?
I'm Chuck Coffey. I'm retired from mining and petrochemical manufacturing and also government here in Crow Wing County.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Bob Haven. I'm retired CEO of a chain of stores. I was vice president of Davis and Powers for years and still start Target stores.
Wonderful. Thank you. Ed?
My name is Eddie. I retired as VP of Business Operations for Qualcomm Incorporated. Where my expertise is, my focus is, I was involved in a company that grew extremely rapidly from a few hundred to about 4,500 people and no revenue to about $6 billion in revenue. And so I learned a lot, we all learned a lot going through that, a lot of mistakes. So managing the challenges of rapid growth, I pulled together a presentation, gave it to the University of Minnesota master's class, and I love talking about it. I love talking about all the mistakes we made, and we made a lot growing that rapidly. And the other thing is the last 2 years, I think everybody here knows what a VP of Business Operations does, right? Everybody knows that. You do whatever the president wants you to do. The last 2 years I was involved in mergers and acquisitions, so involved in 6 separate successful acquisitions and integration. So I also try to help folks there if I can in buying, selling companies. That's it. Thanks.
Andrew.
My name's Andrew Hook. I'm an economist. I'm not really retired, but I might be. And I've done a lot of work overseas. In the last 10 years, I've been in Afghanistan, working in the financial sector and teaching and capacity building. So, and I see capacity building as one of the things that I think is very important for economic development. And so I make myself available if I can help.
Great, thank you. Patty?
My name is Patty Nordgaard, and I am retired from the mortgage banking service industry. and my 30-year career was in sales and marketing. And so when I hear people talking about that's the basis for your business, without selling something, you know, life doesn't go on. And so, and I love to talk about what I did in those 30 years, and it was a great ride. And so, if you have any questions, I'm here to talk about sales and marketing.
Great, thank you. Wow, aren't we fortunate in our area to have this wealth of knowledge, expertise, and individuals giving back to our community to try to help make it better. And I can't thank you enough, the volunteer executives, for their guidance and expertise. And I want to share that not only do we have the volunteer execs that want to work with companies and help grow our area's economic development opportunities for the future, but we actually have resources and staff, like BLAEDC staff, as well as we have Greg Bergman here with the Small Business Development Center. And we have SCORE, like Dave mentioned. Am I overlooking somebody? Oh, yeah. So all of the execs are available for the mentoring and counseling and through the SCORE program as well. And BLAEDC has set up a table here, and we have a 5-minute video that highlights our executive program. And if you go onto our website, click on the executive button, you will see this 5-minute video that I think you'll be impressed with. In addition, we are taping our presentation this evening. We will also have that on our website. I know a few people had to cancel and not join us tonight, but like I shared with them, that we will be putting that online. So if you have some questions or you want to listen again to what some of the panelists shared with you, know that that will be available shortly. In addition, we're hoping to hold additional business insight sessions like the one tonight. And Dave mentioned the sales and marketing, the rapid growth, strategic planning, maybe inventions and innovations, or if there are other topics, we're looking for your guidance and ideas, so please let us know. And I would share that there are a couple of BLAEDC board members and director emeritus members here. Maybe do you want to just stand up quick so the group knows that there are many volunteers working in our community to encourage economic development. We have Kevin Close, we have Paul Means, we have Jim Kraft, we have Arnold Johnson. And I want to just thank everybody for coming. They'll be coming in with some food. Please network, connect, and join me again in thanking our panelists.